Hello, this is my story of learning guitar. I started quite late, only at the age of 20, January 1973. At that time, I was already studying cello at the Musikhochschule Freiburg, a tertiary conservatorium in South Germany. As it happened, my neighbor at my college had an old big Revox tape recorder. The older people might remember these machines. One day he came with 3 one-hour reels with Andrew Segovia playing guitar. I had never ever heard guitar played like this. I was overawed. I had friends studying classical guitar, which I had met at the introductory course on music theory for the entry exam at the Musikhochschule. I told everyone how much I loved suddenly classical guitar. Well, they told me one day that one guitar student had left mid-term, so the professor for guitar had a break in the middle where he was not teaching. They told me just go to him and ask if he wouldn't mind that I could start with him. Supposed to, he was very friendly. So next day I walked in and asked. He simply said, well, better than twiddling my thumbs. And then he told me I could borrow a guitar for free from the Musikhochschule. I went there straight away after walking out of his room, happy as anything, and then carrying home a nylon Yamaha from 1965, how I found out with an annoyingly really thick neck. It was incredible. Now I had the unique chance to start from scratch with the best guitarist in the state, without an entry exam and without a fee. I got totally obsessed with guitar and gave my first public concert 1.5 years later, playing Villalobos and Ponce, 2 South American composers. Very shortly after, the daughter of my teacher, whom I had also met in the entry course, had decided to change direction and move away. And she asked me if I would be happy to take some of her students. Well, these students happened to be extremely talented. I had to practice every day to keep up with them. They were also my first ever young students. 3 out of 4 kids became professional musicians. 2 became guitarists and 1 instrument maker. And they contributed immensely to that I expected from students, that they were interested, that they got somewhere, and that I enjoyed teaching. A year later, I did my entrance exam for guitar as a main instrument. And 2 years later, I did my diploma in teaching and performing guitar. Then in 1987, I moved to Berlin, teaching guitar and cello, and organized 2 guitar concert series. Music in the old village churches in Berlin, and music in Alten Heidekirchen, which is churches in the old heath in North Germany. During the second series, I was offered a full-time employment at the Conservatorium of Schleswig-Flensburg, North Germany. During my time there, I published my first recording, a vinyl LP with old and new classical guitar music, recorded in Lübeck. I just get it. And here it is. And if I turn it around, so that's me, how I look like. And here in the corner is my little son, now 45 years old. In 1985, I emigrated to Australia and sold by mistake my last copy, thinking I had still some left in my bags. A few years later, after I had recorded my first guitar CD, here it is, I went back to the local radio station, of which I remembered having given them a copy, and asked if they could mind if I could swap my old LP with my new CD. So I got this copy back with the marking, you might have noticed, of the local radio station 2BBB Bellingen. Then in 1989, I moved here to the Blue Mountains, where I'm still living today. Half a year before, I visited a violinist on recommendation by a friend by the name of Gustav Czelsky, who lived in the Blue Mountains. Well, he had to do a concert on the weekend, but the accompanying pianist had pulled out because he found the piano there was not good enough. Being stuck, Gustav asked if I would give it a try and we play violin and guitar together. Well, luckily, I had taught a couple of years earlier arranging music at the University of New England in Armidale, and I quickly arranged some of the pieces and we found some more music to cover the concert. The performance went astonishingly well. We just clicked and played together as if we knew each other for years. We became friends and founded the Paganini duo, named after the composer Paganini, who was a stunning soloist and composer for both instruments, violin and guitar. We ended up playing more than 2,000 times together. Weddings, hotels, national and international tours, plus our more than 130 duo concerts in the underground Jenolan caves, famous for their acoustics and also 400 million years old, the oldest caves in the world. We published 3 Ds together, the last 2 live recordings from our concerts in the caves. During the last years of playing together, a friend of us and I published some clips on YouTube. The playlist is listed below. Then about 12 years ago, my right hand showed a dysfunction. My middle finger went under the palm of the hand, unwanted. I was told it was genetic, showing only when you get older, and told many have it much worse than me. But for me it meant I couldn't perform solo concerts anymore. Unfortunately, my duo partner Gustav began at the same time suffering from emphysema and couldn't play anymore. So my guitar playing moved into the background. I then heard about quite some famous guitarists where I wondered why they had stopped performing. And know today that the same problem exactly with the same finger, the middle finger going under the hand. And now an interesting thing happened. I remembered that I'd noticed before that some of my most admired players, like Julian Bream, sometimes repeated the same finger in order to get exactly the same sound. He and others had found some positiveness in sometimes not alternating. It is a no-no for classical players. Then I heard stories about folk and jazz players who became even famous just because the speed they could repeat the same finger, particularly the ring finger. However, I couldn't bring myself being seen as a classical player just repeating the same finger, a thing even younger students are marked down for. Then a couple of years ago I realized that historically the alternating stroke was not strictly followed before Francesco Tarrega, who lived 1850 to 1909, a brilliant composer and performer, but also an obsessive follower of strict rules in posture and fingers, often going against the natural flow of going up the strings following the hand shape and forcing himself and his students to be 100% strict, alternating, practicing hours to go against the grain, although it doesn't improve the sound. That struck me. This whole idea is only a bit more than 100 years old. I repeat now fingers in private, and it sounds good, but I still haven't performed like this publicly. Actually, in fact, it sounds as good as before. In this course, with many coming from the field of playing all kinds of styles, many may anyway not to be keen to follow absolute strictness. In fact, they couldn't care less. By now, I encourage everyone to go mostly for sound, the very best sound, and this should come first, and comfort, because making music should not be reduced to publicly showing off accuracy, but making music as beautiful as possible in the way we can express ourselves best. I restarted playing daily, enjoying sitting down in the evening, not worried about a repeated finger, but playing some of this huge amount of great music again. And this sparked off in me the idea to offer a course for so many who would be put off by the idea always looking at the rights and wrongs of a finger, but would love to play some of this fantastic music.